Hi, it's Nicki here, and I'm back with another Ask the Author. Now, today's topic I'm going to talk about historical fiction. Now, this is something that I've covered in one of my editing vlogs recently as well, so there will be a little bit of overlap if you're someone who watches both, but I thought I'd address it from each camp. So last time in the editing one I kind of talked about things to look for once you've finished your manuscript, when you're going back through double checking that everything makes sense at the end before you submit or publish. So I thought today I'd just pull the timeline back a little bit and say, what are you doing when you're starting to write your historical fiction? What sort of research are you doing? What sort of things should you be researching? One of the key things for me is always language. I do like, sorry, that's my washing machine finishing in the background, if you can hear that little like do 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 do. I shall ignore it and go and empty it in a minute. Anyway, language. So yes, I'm very keen on getting language correct. I have a few books that I like to use to help me. I've got some slang dictionaries, 1699, one for sort of later through the Georgian into the Regency, and one for Victorian. So I find those really helpful in terms of getting a few period appropriate terms in there. I also like, if there's a word that I've used, particularly in dialogue but also in prose, that I think, hang on a minute, is that a period word? I'll look it up, and Merriam-Webster's online dictionary is really good for this because it gives you a first usage date on most words. So if you stick a word in there and you've got a story set in 1820 and Merriam-Webster tells you no one used that word until 1920, then if possible change it out and put something else in. In terms of other research, I mean, I tend to write periods that I know fairly well, so I don't have to spend absolutely hours starting from scratch. I write a lot of Georgian Victorian, so I've got a good knowledge of the major events, the clothing, what sort of technology was available at the time, how people lived. But I have a nice collection of books on my shelf behind me there, looking at different periods of history and concentrating on what things people had in the home, what they were wearing. So I tend to start off, I don't do masses of research in advance because I've got a good idea in my head, but once I get down to the nitty-gritty details, particularly coming into a second draft, although I do check some things in the first draft if they're major, I'll go back to those books, just make sure I've got the right style skirt for the year that I'm writing and things like that. And that's the sort of thing that you want to be looking up. Clothing, items around the home, that sort of thing. Because those little details, if you get those right, then it makes the world that much more believable. And I mean, if you don't own books, there are plenty of websites and places online where you can look this stuff up. Victorian and Regency in particular, there's lots of websites with that kind of information available, and little blog posts or little essays that you can read that will tell you all these sort of facts. That probably about covers it. I suppose one other point that I do like is to try to include a real life event somewhere in the story. It doesn't necessarily have to be a major part of the story, it can just be something someone mentions in passing. Like in one of my novels, they're having a dinner table conversation discussing the decoding of the Rosetta Stone, for example. So it was happening at the time the story's set. So that's just a little boost. I've got some changing light conditions out there. I might go a bit dark, I'm sorry. But that's just a little boost that you can give to really establish your story in the time period you're writing, just by adding one or two little details that you know are pinpoint accurate for the time. On that note, I will end, but if anyone's got any comments or questions relating to this video, pop them in the comments and I will answer them for you. And for now I'll say goodbye, but I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye for now.